Let's get to one of our calls of the day here. Ford downgraded to an equal weight over at Barclays, the firm saying supply chain issues will continue to be a big issue for Ford, as well as the entire auto industry. It's our call of the day. They're actually cautious on auto parts as well. Pete, you recently owned Ford calls.
I did. I was in Ford calls. I was in Tesla calls. I'm out of both of those now. I'm still in some Rivian as well as GM. GM are just going to go away worthless. I'll be the first to tell you. They were calls that were on to the upside. We had a great run. Both Ford and GM were exploding to the upside, and then they weren't. And then when they turned, Mel, they just literally started to turn to the downside. And significantly, I think what people finally realized was, okay, these two companies are doing a great job with the EV space, but they're not there yet, and they're not delivering at any kind of a pace that everybody's ultimately incredibly excited about. So I think that's why we see the kind of a pullback that we're seeing now. And it's going to take a little while. These are not EV names yet. Right. But look at that jump that it had as well, right, Josh? I mean, the move to the upside was violent, and then the move to the downside is even more violent. So I think a lot of that was that everybody was pricing in the EV side of this trade.
Sure. Michael Farr, how are you feeling about Ford in this call?
Company.
Well, okay.
Yeah,
can it manage through financing that's 3% or something for the consumer on top of supply chain issues and price hikes?
Yes, I think it can. And I mean, I think the demand is there. Okay, so we have a supply chain issue with Ford, but Ford has outstanding management. Look, what Bill Farley has done at that company, I think, is fabulous. I mean, he is one seriously quality, talented CEO. And a 2.7 or 2.75% dividend with a stock that's down this much and pent-up demand, this, I think, return for this stock is a matter of when and not if. I don't own it yet, but when I see something pull back like this, I'm going to go take a very close look. They are cutting edge, and I think they are well poised to probably be very successful. I want to take a closer look at this for our long-term portfolio.
Brenda, I don't know where you stand exactly on Ford or if you own it, but I mean, I think the notion of the note really applies to a lot of companies. I mean, the analysts there are saying that investors are underestimating the impact of supply chain. They are underestimating the impact of inflation. They are underestimating the impact of Fed rate hikes. And I think that can be said for perhaps many companies in many different industries that perhaps we're not fully grasping what the impact is going to be.
Yeah, I think when it comes to autos, if you look at Ford down 40%, obviously there's something being baked in there in terms of bad outcomes. But when we look at where we're going to put incremental dollars, we haven't chosen to do so within the auto industry, even though EV is obviously a huge growth trend within that industry. But our concern really has been that, what is a supply challenge right now could turn into a supply glut as soon as things really ease up a little bit. And maybe that happens at the same time demand is starting to wane a little bit. As you mentioned, with rates going up, consumer feeling more pricing pressure, maybe that's when things do start to slow down a little bit.
All right, on to our next call here. Citi says it is safe to enter the metaverse, initiating Roblox with a buy rating and a $59 price target. Josh, you're in Roblox. How are you feeling about this?
This is one of the worst buys I've made in the last 18 months. I bought it just as the NASDAQ was, I bought it down huge from its high, thinking that there might be some safety in where I was getting in. It was stupid. This stock's not going to work right now. So I actually do believe that Roblox is the closest thing we have in the real world to an actual metaverse. The business model is phenomenal. Kids converting USD into Robux, and Roblox taking a huge vig on every transaction. So I think the stock and the company will ultimately work out. It's just not going to work right now. So I don't know what Citi's looking at. They should maybe have a technical analyst go over down the hall to this analyst's office and show them some things about how the actual real world works, because this one looks like more 52-week lows, all-time lows in its future. So I have a little bit of money in this. I'm trapped in it. I'm not adding to it. I think there will be a time and place, but this ain't it.
Can I ask you a question just from a portfolio management standpoint, Josh? When you say you're trapped...
No, you may not, Melissa.
I'm going to ask the question. If I get an answer, I get a good answer. If I don't, I'll move on.
All right, go ahead. What do you got?
Why are you trapped in a stock? I mean, if you think, as you say, that there's going to be lower lows ahead, then why don't you just sell it and take the loss and put your money in something that will serve you better?
That's a really great question, because I don't actually know that. I'm just telling you what I think could happen. not every feeling or opinion I have comes true. Obviously, because if it had, I wouldn't be in this name. I wouldn't be in this name 30% higher than where it is. I do like it as a long-term play on the metaverse. The other thing that's important to keep in mind with all stocks like this, no one's going to ring a bell and tell you when they're going to come back in favor. This thing is down so much, it could spike 30% in 2 days if there's some kind of news announcement or some kind of guidance from the company about how things are going. So if you're going to be in it as an investor, unfortunately, that means living through the tough times too. I never bought it as a trade. So I'm not willing to commit more capital for it. I don't think it's the right stock for this environment, but I do want to be there for when it does turn. And I don't think from these levels, there's a huge amount of risk here. So that's, I guess, the best answer I could give you to your question. I know there's a lot of contradiction in what I'm saying, but markets are messy. Life is not so simple.
That is a good saying, Josh, and I shall put it on the next sampler I needlepoint.